Hello and welcome back to another fantasy football video. Hope you guys are doing well. We are at the end of game week 32 after an absolutely sublime performance from Newcastle, absolutely thrashing Spurs, and Brighton and Manchester United have both just slogged it out in 120 minutes 0-0, where Manchester United managed to nick it on penalties. All of this before a very quick turnaround heading into game week 33 with that Tuesday 6 p.m. deadline before Wolves kicks off against Crystal Palace. Now I feel at the minute that there are sort of two different camps in the FPL community. We have those people who have a free hit and are very much looking to plan ahead to kind of game week 36 and 37 doubles, and those people who don't have a free hit and so are very much more focused on this game week 34 double. So the way in which this video is going to work today is first we're going to have a quick look at how the team performed in game week 32, then take a look at the strategies for those of you that don't have a free hit and those of you that do have a free hit, take a look at a player watch list which is more specific to my team, and then take a look at how the team does line up ahead of game week 33. If you're new on here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Hit the like button if you enjoy the content, and well, let's get straight on into this one. So how did the team perform in game week 32? My transfers this week were Chilwell and Raya to Trent and Johnston, netting myself a positive 13 points, which, you know, I can't really expect to do much better than that. Johnston picking up the 10-pointer was really nice to see. I saw that Liverpool had conceded 2 and was quite disappointed with Trent, and then he whipped up an assist with a bonus point, so that was quite nice to see as well. We have Martinelli there with the 18 points after I captained him. Now, the main threat to the team this game week was Salah, and I feel like I fought off Salah reasonably well as he only picked up 7 points, so actually 2 points less than my captain, and most people ended up captaining Salah, so that was a 14-point total. With Saka, after a dismal 0-pointer last weekend, managing to pick up 13 points. It was nice to see a return from him. And Tony outscoring Watkins, who was another one of the main threats this game week by 7 points. It was really nice to see him getting on the score sheet. And, you know, Kane picking up a goal in a 6-1 loss. I'll take the 6 points any day long there. The only disappointing thing for me, mainly this game week, was Ben Mee conceding the 87th minute when he was on for 2 bonus points. What could have pushed me potentially into the top 100k. I did get a 30k rise this week from 150k up to about 120k, which was nice to see with a game week rank of 547k, with my overall points creeping so close to that 2100 mark with a game week points of 71. Now, I myself do have a free hit, so partially this video is going to be focused on my strategy around how I'm going to sort of prepare for game week 33 with having a free hit. But before we look at that, I want to take a look at the strategy for those of you that don't have a free hit and how you can look and how you can prepare your team ahead of game week 33. So if you don't have a free hit, what can you do ahead of game week 33? Well, firstly, you don't have to use your free transfer unless you have 2 of them, but I kind of highly doubt that with most people having used their free hit in a game week 32. It is quite powerful to have the 2 free transfers going into game week 34, into the double game week. So that is potentially advisable. But if you do want to use your transfer this week, we want to take a look at those players that have good game week 33 fixtures. Firstly, taking a look at those players who you could potentially sell. I think for me, Arsenal and Brentford are 2 teams that I'm looking at getting rid of players from, especially the defence. Both teams' defences have dried up and got a bit worse of late. With Arsenal losing Saliba and Holding come in, they look a bit more defensively flimsy. And with Brentford, I'm not too sure what's happened, but they're not keeping clean sheets. And so I think the likes of me, Henry, even Raya, are potentially time to go. Now, in the midfield, Saka, there's a fair bit of money for him, and if we're looking down at the midfielders that we could potentially buy here with the likes of Salah and De Bruyne on that list, Saka takes up quite a bit of money compared to Martinelli, and of late, I mean, he did score the 13-pointer this game week, but I still feel that Martinelli is the better option going forward. Then for Tony, really for me, only this week, actually getting rid of Tony would be viable if you want to get Jota in. Otherwise, Tony has been, you know, one of the highest scoring attackers in FPL so far this year. You could get rid of Tony for Watkins, but as we've shown this game week, Tony has just as good of ability to pick up points as Watkins does. So Tony, one I would sell potentially for Jota. Now, looking at the teams that you can potentially buy players from ahead of game week 33, Liverpool, a team that I potentially would be tripling up in Game Week 34. So if you can get some of these players in, that would be fantastic. I think Game Week 33, if you don't have Trent, potentially comes a week too early for him. Going away to West Ham, I can see Liverpool conceding. Trent obviously has the upside of attacking returns, and potentially, I think for the one game in the rest of the season, he's going to pick up a nice haul where he gets an assist and a clean sheet. Salah, one that I'm definitely looking to potentially get into my team. It looks on very good form at the minute. So yeah, one that I also want to get. Now Manchester United and Brighton, as previously mentioned, did just slog it out in a 120-minute game in the FA Cup semi-final. So how that's going to affect their kind of players heading into the midweek fixtures is yet to be seen. Bruno Fernandes actually the better out of him and Rashford from an attacking perspective in the FA Cup semi-final, was getting really far forward and making those deep runs in behind. Rashford still potentially had a bit of a knock. He didn't look very decisive or have much of a cutting edge that we've seen so far this season in the Premier League. With that being said, though, with the Bruno Rashford debate, a lot of you I know will be frustrated owning Bruno because he hasn't been picking up the returns. Rashford is over 2 million cheaper, so that's a massive positive, and has been performing much better than him, potentially on penalties as well. So Rashford maybe snips it over the 2. I mean, yeah, a lot of people will be going Rashford over Bruno, but I think heavily consider Bruno because I think that he could actually do quite well with the attacking positions that he is picking up. Now, from a defensive standpoint, I think Luke Shaw is the obvious one for me. Either going to be playing left centre-back or left-back, picking up bonus points earlier on the season. United defensively, with Martinez and Varane out, but Casemiro back in. They just kept getting a clean sheet against Brighton, so a pretty good attacking team, so potentially that bodes well for their clean sheets, yet to be seen. With Manchester City, I really do like the idea of Kevin De Bruyne. Got a good record against Arsenal. The only thing with him is he is quite expensive. If you want to have the likes of Salah and Haaland in your team, are you going to be able to afford De Bruyne? Even if you have Kane in there as well, probably if you want Salah and De Bruyne, you're most likely going to be getting rid of Kane. But a good alternative is Jack Grealish. Many people I know hopping on the Grealish bandwagon. If you can't afford De Bruyne, he's a perfectly good substitute coming in at 7 million. Potential rotation option, although the form he's been showing means that I think he is a good enough option going into this game week. At home to Arsenal, I do think that City are potentially going to wipe the floor with them. Then Brighton, in terms of midfielders, it seems now that March and Matoma look like the better of the Brighton midfielders, with McAllister dropping back into the more central defensive role and Entizo pushing into Cam. Entizo coming at 4.6 million as an attacker, could be a nice little punt as well. And Estupiñán, the pick of the defenders, gets forward, can provide attacking returns, although hasn't really of late. Brighton defensively a little bit flimsy as well, so away to Nottingham Forest, who have been scoring week in, week out for the past 15 game weeks at home. I don't think I'd necessarily be hopping on Estupiñán just yet. I think maybe waiting until the game week 34 deadline to bring in Estupiñán could be a better play there. Dunk provides more assurance in terms of minutes, although Estupiñán did have that little bit of a blip where he got subbed off after the 45th minute, but there's been nothing really since then to really testify that he's actually not going to be playing. So this is a little look about how you can kind of strategize ahead of game week 34 and game week 33. Personally, if I didn't have a free hit, I'd probably just be saving the transfer unless you have a real need to transfer one of these players out. If you have maybe double Arsenal midfield, both away to City, doesn't look too favourable, so if you can maybe bring in a Salah or even a Rashford or Grealish or De Bruyne, that could be a good idea. Overall, I think banking the transfer is the easiest play if you have a good team to go into game week 33, but these are some pretty decent options here. But now why don't we take a look at what to do if you do have a free hit going into game week 33. So if you do have a free hit coming into game week 33, I think selling wise it stays pretty much the same because those players still are just as bad if you do or don't have a free hit, but the buying does change a little bit with your kind of focus more looking past the double game week 34, because I'm assuming that you're going to be using your free hit in the double game week 34. So Manchester City, Brighton and Newcastle both have doubles post the double game week. So do Manchester United, but nah. I think the Man City, Brighton and Newcastle look like the better fixtures for game week 33. With that being said, Man United play Spurs away. Spurs just got absolutely battered. But I think Newcastle, the big team that I'm looking at here for game week 33, with the likes of Botman and Isak. Isak especially looking quite good, and the Tony to Isak transfer I do like if you do have a free hit already. Similar discussions around the Brighton midfielders, similar discussion around the Man City midfielders. I think that, these options are the ones that you should be looking at heading into game week 33. If you do have a free hit, and you will need to use your transfer, as it will just burn if you don't use it, and then you go in and free hit in game week 34. This currently is my strategy, is to go and go and free hit in game week 34. So why don't we take a look at a little player watch list of players that I'm specifically looking at bringing in ahead of game week 33. The players that I'm potentially thinking of bringing in, firstly, Jack Grealish of Manchester City, been on extremely good form. Personally, I'm thinking of bringing out either Saka or Tony. So I'm mainly looking at midfielders and attackers. Grealish coming in at 7.2 million. Gives myself a little bit more money in the bank. Now, I do have 1.1 million in the bank, and Saka currently coming in around 8 million, so I could go up to Bruno Fernandes if I did want to. These fixtures, with the free hit that I do have, the double game week 34, I'm not necessarily looking at the Fulham and West Ham fixtures. I'm looking at the Arsenal at home fixture, and then in 35, the Leeds at home fixture. The only worry for me about Grealish is that with the Champions League fixtures and all the Premier League fixtures coming so fast, is he going to be playing week in, week out? I don't know if I can necessarily trust that. Whereas Marcus Rashford, coming in at 7.1 million, playing away at Spurs, who just got absolutely battered, and then in game week 35. I can't remember exactly who he plays, but I know it's a more favourable fixture. Not necessarily than Leeds at home, but we know that Marcus Rashford is going to be playing week in, week out, as long as he is not injured. So Rashford potentially pips it over Grealish. I think that Grealish on the better form and could potentially score more points in game week 33, but Rashford in the longer term, I know he's going to play week in, week out. So it's a tough decision, because in FPL I've been trying to play more kind of, focus on this game week that you are approaching, rather than planning for sort of 5 to 10 game weeks ahead, because you'll miss out on points in the more immediate game weeks. Now, you could say it's a bit of a 50-50 actually coming into game week 33 over who out of Rashford and Grealish is going to score more points. So potentially leaning towards Marcus Rashford. But then the other transfer that I could potentially make is Ollie Watkins in for Ivan Toney. Watkins been on very good form so far this season, and mainly looking for an attacker in game weeks 33 and 35. And Watkins playing at home to Fulham and away to Wolves has probably the most favourable fixtures out of any attacker in those game weeks, and has been on incredible form of late, only blanking for the first time in many game weeks against Brentford. The other option obviously being Isak. He's another one that could come in, and after scoring a brace against Spurs, very tempted with that one as well. I would say currently Rashford is the one that's pipping it, but it's very tight between these two. And with these potential transfers in mind, let's take a look at how the team is lining up ahead of game week 33. So this is the game week 33 team thus far. Now, it doesn't really look like it needs a transfer, to be honest. The 3-4-3, a formation that I've quite liked playing so far this season. One thing that I will say is, how many have we got here? We've got 8 out of 11 players, 9 out of 11 players, 8, playing away from home, which isn't great. I do like to have at least 5 or 6 home players, because teams tend to perform better at home than away from home. At least say Wolves away, looks like a decent fixture, but he's not actually been performing in the last couple of games and not been looking that threatening. So I would quite like the move of maybe Saka out and Rashford or Grealish in, and then put Elise on the bench. I think I'm fine with putting Elise on the bench. Defensive wise, Trippier away to Everton, could see Newcastle picking up a clean sheet there. West Ham, I do think that Liverpool will probably concede in this game, but you can potentially see Trent picking up an attack in return. At home to Fulham, Aston Villa, with how defensively good they've been so far this season, or under Unai Emery, you can see Tyrone Mings picking up a clean sheet. Now, performances from March and Matoma, I feel like, could potentially make or break this game week for me, with a 120-minute slog, as mentioned, that they've just endured against Manchester United. Will they be able to put up as good a performance in the Notts Forest away game as they did in that game, especially against a Forest side who's sort of fighting for their lives at the minute to stay in the Premier League? This could be a tough one for Brighton. Harry Kane against Manchester United. You know what? I'm fine with it. Kane probably will be staying in my team until the rest of the season. 2 transfers to take him out to bring in maybe a Salah or De Bruyne doesn't necessarily seem worth it with the form that Kane has been on so far this season, even managing to pick up goals when they get battered. I think I'm fine with having Kane in my team. Tony away to Chelsea. Now, Chelsea, on paper it seems like a tough fixture, but with the form they've been showing with Frank Lampard now at the helm, I really don't trust Chelsea. So I'm actually looking at this Chelsea away fixture as potentially a green fixture for Brentford. So I'm hoping that Ivan Toney can return in that game. Now, captaincy for this game week, it's got to be Haaland. I think that Manchester City are going to win this game against Arsenal, and potentially comfortably so. Haaland been on really good form of late, potentially off penalties as he missed the one against Bayern Munich in the midweek UCL game, and Mahrez did step up and take the penalty against Sheffield United. But, Haaland probably going to want to take those penalties back from Mahrez, and I feel like the next one he could potentially step up and take. Either way, with or without penalties, Haaland looks really, really good in terms of XG and just scoring. So I think a comfortably easy captaincy for me there. Do let me know down in the comments the players that you are potentially thinking of bringing in. This has been a quick little preview / team selection going into the game week 33. If you have enjoyed, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Hit that like button if you enjoy the content, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.